Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for March 24th, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also here are Ralph Kohler, who's sharing his screen, and we'll start off the discussion. Aaron McHale, Simo Helston, and S. Musgrave. Well, at least that's how it shows up on Zoom. I think your actual name is Stephen Musgrave, right?
Yeah, sorry, I think it's a Zoom default.
Okay. Go ahead, Ralph.
Shall we jump into that one?
Sure.
Okay. It's basically an issue we've talked, or what's the name in the word in English? Outsourced, or not sure. Anyway, it's basically about the granular permissions for the block module, or the content block module we've already talked 2 weeks ago about, and parts of that issue got moved into a separate ticket. It's issue number 3347517, and last time we talked about the part we haven't had time left was the naming of the block permission names, and we might finish that today.
Okay, so this is where we had the existing issue for giving more granular permissions, one for each custom block type.
Yep.
And people were discussing additional permissions for the block module, and that's what we've split off into this separate issue, right?
Yep. I've
any...
already applied the patch, and those are the newly added block permissions.
Okay, and any questions about the context, the scope?
I'm the one who opened this. Just FYI, I did just pull this out of the original ticket. I didn't do any other additional work other than I just cut this part out and moved it over.
Sure. I think that, what I think we want to keep in mind when we're talking about this is, for the longest time, block layout has lived at the top level of structure, but as is in related issues, we're proposing moving it under appearance. So we probably want to be mindful of that context. Like, does that mean, well, we could assume that means that to get to the block layout page, somebody then may need to have the permission to access the appearance page. I mean, that might not actually, in practice, we might be able to do something to address that, so that they could click on appearance and they would go to the block layout tab if they didn't have permissions to the appearance part. But that's the kind of thing we have to maybe be aware of in context here, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep, I think that's why it was a good idea to split it off, because we've already moved the block library, so that's already moving forward. The block layout has not moved yet.
And to be clear, like, there's no reason that could be another follow-up issue to just consider the implications on permission structures. So we don't necessarily need to think, factor into this issue, but we just want to be mindful of that if there's something obvious that we can do in this issue.
Okay, I'd like to point out that Christina Chunias just joined us. Thanks for coming.
Hi there.
I am curious on this one. I know I'm the one who copied it over. But if you have access to the block layout section, Like, do you really like, is there, I can't think of a scenario where someone would have access to that section, but they have like limited ability to do things. Like you can
Yeah.
access the block layout, but you can only disable blocks. Like that seems unlikely.
Yeah, I think that I remember from the last discussion we were not at all clear on what like enable/disable blocks as a permission means. Or at least I wasn't. I forget. I apologize. I forget exactly the intricacies of that discussion. But from the permission name, it's not entirely clear. And on that train of thought, I wonder how likely it is somebody would have access to block layout but not have access to appearance. I mean, it's certainly possible, and that a site builder might have access to block layout but not to configure the themes. So I guess that's the kind of thing I'm also thinking about, was what I was saying earlier around like being careful about how we reconcile the permissions going forward.
Yeah, makes sense.
I actually think that's something that should be handled on the other issue. So when we do move block layout under appearance, I think that'll be the right time to
yeah,
consider additional.
I don't think it's something we have. That's why I think I'm getting at. I don't think it's something we have to do in this specific issue, but just for the discussion, it's something that I'm mindful of. I definitely think that is probably more relevant for the other issue around actually moving it.
And since this is all around like the whole like block reorganization, I've spoken to Lee, his name's Lee, right? Lar Olin. Yeah, I've spoken to him, and like we've kind of agreed that like we've already moved the block types and block library. So like the priority for like 10.1 for us at least is to like get the block library permissions ticket in, the renaming of at least those sections done, and then there's like another one about redirects when creating blocks. Like, not that this one is not like moving of the block layout is not on the radar. It's just that we've already kind of thought that maybe that's going to be a 10.2 thing.
Okay, so let's try to focus on this issue and focus on the usability concerns. So do we even want to discuss whether this is the correct list of permissions, or is that outside the scope of usability?
I think it's part of usability to think if these are necessary to be included in the core. So if this is useful for everyone, or if it should be somehow kind of something you can add later if you need those. So to keep not to add too much stuff for everyone. So in that sense, it's related to usability.
Okay, so I guess until now there's this single permission administer blocks, which is currently second on the list, and it lets you do a lot of things with blocks. And now that layout builder is being used more, we want to let people position blocks using layout builder without granting them permission to administer blocks in the UI. Is that a fair statement, or am I mixing things up? Okay, so I think administer blocks is still going to grant all permissions in this list. And do we think this is the right list of permissions? Is this more than we need?
I think it's a little overkill.
I'm thinking so too. Like, do we really need a separate permission for enabling, disabling, and for removing? And I guess all of these permissions are related to the block layout page that Ralph has open in a separate tab, right?
Yes. Personally, I like the granularity of permissions here. The only problem I have is in regards of the wording with administer blocks. It isn't quite clear that it entails basically granting all the other permissions, basically the abilities you have with those at once. And from a wording wise, as a non-native speaker, I consider administer an abstract term a little bit.
Okay, but before we get to the wording, and maybe we could do that with a description rather than title, but before we get there, let's think about the list. So Stephen and I both said that this seems like overkill. This seems like too many permissions, too granular. And you disagree. So spend a few minutes convincing us that we should have all of these permissions. Make your case.
1 second. I think it is a good thing that some of the abilities, like, for example, enabling, disabling, as well as removing, you could grant to more advanced users. At the same time, you could basically, it's tricky.
I mean, what sort of user would have the permission remove blocks but not have all permissions? Go ahead, Aaron.
Thanks. Yeah, I was trying to think about, like, okay, why would you need all these permissions? And my organization, we have lots and lots of editors, lots of sites. But like even with large sites and large groups of editors like ours, it's like I still would struggle to think of the use case why even we would have that many permissions. And what we would prefer, I think, is to be able to more granularly limit which blocks you can place in a region, not turn on and off the ability to place blocks outside of just giving access to the block layout page. So I don't feel, and I haven't found a use case yet for anything more than the access to the block placement overview page. Although I also don't understand the difference between that and administer blocks in this context. I think even, yeah, I would struggle to think of any case where we would, in my organization, we would use any more than that.
So I guess that first permission would let you see the page, but not give you permission to make any changes on the page. Second permission, administer blocks, gives you all permissions.
Yeah, and I think we would want to be able to control the, which regions can you place blocks in and what blocks can you place in those regions, not turning on and off specific like global bits of functionality, if that makes sense. Like if you have access to that page as a site administrator, like a site owner, let's say, so not like a full site administrator, somebody who has, or a site builder kind of person, we would say, okay, you can place some blocks in the main content area, but all the other regions are protected and you can't change anything about those regions. And the blocks you can place in are custom blocks and maybe some other ones. And the way we do that is we would use, there's probably some contrib modules. Again, I'm kind of sort of theorizing at this point, but there's probably contrib modules to do that. So even in that case of really large sites with lots of editors, I wouldn't see a use case for all these permissions.
So I'm actually going to suggest that we cut off discussion on this now. And Ralph, if you or if someone else really thinks that we need all of these new permissions, make an argument for it. Looking at the issue, the motivation is just saying, well, we copied this from the other issue. So let's get some discussion going on the issue about what problem we're trying to solve here and why we need all of these permissions. Agree, disagree? Do people want to keep talking? Let's see a thumbs up from Ralph. And from Aaron and Simo. Okay, so we won't discuss usability until we have more of an idea of what's going on in this issue. Ralph, do you want to continue with the other issue you were talking about, or let me share my screen? And Christina, you joined us a few minutes after the start. Are there any issues you'd like to bring up?
Nope, not today.
Okay. So give me just a second to find the right window. Yeah, I think this is it. Okay. So that's the issue we've been looking at. What I would like to look at is this issue, 2717319, provide better default configuration when reusing an existing field. And you can see it's already fixed. So we don't often, I guess we usually talk about things that are in progress. But this is actually the issue that prompted me to join the usability meeting several years ago when I was working on this issue. And I just want to celebrate a little bit that this issue has been fixed. So let's see, here's a Drupal site I've set up. It has the usual highly secure admin login. If you care to check out the site yourself, I posted a link in Zoom chat. And let's see, what am I looking at here? This is the article content type. And in addition to the default image, I've added a thumbnail image field. And of course, I have configured the display field. The thumbnail uses image style thumbnail. Make sense?
Yep.
And then this issue is about reusing a field. So let me go to not content types, article, but basic page. And let me add a field, reuse an existing field. Let's see what happens when I add the thumbnail field, which is already on the article type, to the page type. So these are all the usual settings. Let's just accept the defaults and save. And let's see what happens when we look at manage display. The thumbnail type has been added, but it is using the original image rather than the thumbnail. So that setting from the article type did not get copied over. image style none. If I want to use the thumbnail, I have to do this extra step to make it happen. And then I forget whether we have to save. I think I just saw an issue saying that we do have to save and we don't say so. Anyway. So, oh, by the way, the site I'm running currently is 10.0. And the issue I'm talking about was fixed in 10.1, but not in 10.0. So, so then it gets even worse. I've enabled the paragraphs module, and I've added 2 paragraphs fields to the article content type. And let's see what happens when I copy one of those fields to the basic page content type. So go back to manage fields, add field, reuse the test field for 10.0, accept all the defaults. And then say I go to add a basic page. And I have this test 10.0. That's a default reference field widget. Like, which is not what I want. If I were to add an article, then I have this paragraphs widget for adding there's a Boolean field and an integer field. So this is what I want. And if I add an article, I have the appropriate widget for adding a basic page, adding a paragraph. But when I add a page, I get this useless reference field. So that's the existing behavior. That's the behavior on 10.0. The form widget for the paragraph doesn't get copied over, and the display setting for the thumbnail image doesn't get carried over. Are people familiar with this? Have you seen this before?
You mean the current behavior?
The current behavior, yes.
Yeah, that's especially with paragraphs.
Okay, so now what I'm doing behind the scenes. Okay, so let's see. I just checked out 10.1.x. Let me do the composer magic. Ooh, this is a little bit messy because anyway. And let me see. Well, maybe there are. Oh, yeah, there are a bunch of database updates, so I have to run those or else the site will break. Okay. Let's hope I didn't totally break the site. Upgrading to Drupal 10.1. Now I'm going to go back to the page fields, and I'm going to add the existing field. I'm going to add the image field from the article content type, not the thumbnail, but the image, and just accept whatever defaults I get. And I'm going to add the second paragraphs field. And again, just accept whatever the settings are. And now see what happens. Let's just look at the display settings. For the image style is not original, it's wide, which is what was configured for the image field on articles. So that setting got copied over. And when I add a page, the paragraphs field that I copied over on 10.0 still has this unhelpful reference field, but the paragraphs field that I copied over with 10.1 has the paragraphs widget that I want. So I think that's a great improvement in the site builder experience. And yeah, I was working on this several years ago and sort of gave up. And recently, Larry and some others at Acquia have decided that they need to improve the whole field system. And so they picked up this issue and pushed it through to completion. And I'm really happy about that. I think there are some cases, if you have a lot of fields using the same field storage with different settings, it would be kind of nice to give you a choice of which one to reuse. But I think that can go to a follow-up issue. Oh, and as long as I have paragraphs installed, what else did I check? I enabled the module, here we go, the paragraphs type permissions module, which creates separate permissions for each paragraph type. And unfortunately, there's no permissions tab for that. And I thought we had created an issue for that some time ago, but I couldn't find it. So just shortly before this meeting, I made a typo and added this issue to add the permissions tab if you enable the paragraph type permissions submodule. So this will be 3350210. And that should actually be pretty easy because it's just a little bit on the entity type definition.
Yeah, it's
questions, comments? Go ahead.
It's great to see that improvement get in, because it's one of those things. While it's not you know, it's not a I think quite often at this meeting we sometimes prefer issues that, you know, you can see an immediate return on that investment, like you know, moving the blocks around, all that kind of stuff like we did, and it's really visible, and you could say, oh, you know, like that's a great issue to get done. But it's just as important to get these kind of issues done, which are, you know, is not something that you're going to hit up against every day, but when it's like you demonstrated it, when it does come up, it's a problem that is really frustrating. Particularly if you've got lots of fields you may need to add to another bundle, and it's certainly a really good quality of life improvement, and one which is, I think sometimes those kind of ones we in Drupal we it's sometimes too easy to just you know, let those slide past. So it's really great to see that get done.
Well, I do agree.
Do you know if it also is aware of different display modes? Because yeah, I checked that site, and the examples you showed, they don't kind of tell that, because yeah, the teasers are the same anyways, because they don't include those fields. But I was wondering if it's smart enough to know that on teaser you would like to have a thumbnail, and on default you would like to have a bigger image or something like that. But yeah.
So let's see, I'm looking at the basic page, and on the default, the image has image style wide. And on teaser, it has image style medium. So I'm pretty sure that it is copying things over to match the article content type, which for the image right at the top, it's wide for the default display and it's medium for the teaser display. So I think the answer is yes, it is handling separate display modes properly.
Nice.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to show. Ralph, do you want to talk about the other issue you mentioned? Or shall we ask Aaron for some quickies with wording?
Let's go for the quickies. The other
Okay.
one we could do next or week the other.
Okay, we're a little more than halfway through the hour.
Right, is it yeah, I was just looking at a couple of issues. Let me just check. This one I was looking at because one of them is a bit more tricky. Yeah, I'm just gonna reuse the site that you set up because that is gonna be a lot easier.
Okay, and Zoom is not letting me relinquish my screen share.
I think I can do it.
Go ahead, be my guest.
Let's try. Oh, hold on, bud. Just a second.
Maybe what I should do is quit and rejoin the meeting.
Oh, I think I got it.
Do other people see Aaron's screen?
Is it showing up?
Not for me. Anyone else?
Oh,
No.
oh, it says it's loading. Let me try again.
I'm going to quit and rejoin anyway.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the recording will keep going.
Yeah, it still thinks someone else is sharing, so let's try you if you leave. Yeah, it's still loading for me. Does it still say that you're sharing? Oh, there it goes.
No.
So this is the big long list of issues, the big scary list. I figured there was someone here at the end that maybe we could quickly tackle. This one, I think Stephen posted in Slack. Seemed like a quick one. The issue number is 2989666. Update UI text regarding weight so it is consistent and more helpful to new users. And the problem says the UI text regarding the concept of weight is not consistent and in some cases not be very helpful to new Drupal users. Current weight UI text, book pages, books at a given level are ordered first by weight and then by title. Taxonomy terms are displayed in ascending order by weight. Menu links, link weight among links in the same menu at the same depth. In the menu, the links with high weight will sync and links with low weight will position near the top. That is wow, that's a wordy mouthful, that one. Yeah, so there's some proposed resolutions here. Let's just see. Yeah, I guess I'll read them out. So book pages, Pages at the same depth are displayed first by ascending numerical order and then by title. Pages with higher values will be positioned near the bottom, and pages with lower values will be positioned near the top. For taxonomy terms, terms are displayed in ascending numerical order. Terms with higher values will position nearer the bottom, and terms with lower values positioned near the top. And menu links at the same depth are displayed in ascending numerical order. Links with higher values will be positioned near the bottom, and links with lower values will be positioned near the top. So that's essentially this issue. Yeah, is trying to just standardize some of the UI text, which seems like a good thing. The proposed resolution does seem a lot more standardized, and I figured we could. Well, we probably don't even know if we can bring this up on a site here. Let's look at one of those examples. So taxonomy was an example. I think, yeah, it was taxonomy terms. I'm assuming there's some terms in here.
Right, not.
Okay, let's try menus. Administration is probably a sensible. Oh, I hate that. There's no yeah, where do you actually get the help text is a good question. Maybe do you need to have the help module installed or something? Is there a module you need to enable to get the text? No. How do we how do you see this? That's a good question. Oh, okay. I'm being dumb. Yes, here we are. Okay. So this is an example of like the currently as it is. And in fact, having the screenshots here is probably quite helpful. So okay, I guess first of all, what do people think of the proposed resolutions?
I commented on the chat that I think it would be useful to avoid top and bottom. So because
Yes.
so we could use maybe beginning and end or something similar.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, we should generally avoid directional terms. Let's take one of these. Well, we're on menus, so why not just use the menu example? Let's do that. And let me just zoom this in a little bit. Ooh. Oh, wait.
So the proposed text is substantially longer than the existing text.
Yeah, so we can see, yeah, slightly longer. Yeah, so
yeah, it's less of a difference for menu links, but for book pages, it's a lot longer.
Right.
Taxonomy terms, it's a lot longer, about twice as long.
So if we were to, so first of all, if we look at the top and bottom terms, if we were to swap out bottom for near the end and top for near the beginning, is that what you suggested, Simo?
Yeah. Can we use start? No, I think beginning.
Oh, start and okay, yeah.
Start is shorter.
Yes.
But
good
it have maybe more meanings.
Or should we use last and first? Like I'm thinking about will be positioned last and links with lower values will be positioned first. No, that doesn't work, does it?
Okay, wait, there's something I hate about this.
Okay.
So first of all, I'm not sure that the second sentence is necessary at all. If we do think the second sentence is necessary, then we should say what goes at the start and then what goes at the end. This is in the wrong order.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah.
One
Go ahead,
detail
Rob.
is also, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to note that it's also missing what values are allowed. For example, you're allowed to enter negative values as well, and that isn't mentioned at all.
Right, that's a good point.
Some people I think might benefit from knowing that drag and drop changes the weight value, and they don't see it when they drag the items, but that's something that they probably wouldn't notice it. They wouldn't find it here in the help text anyways, but it's also that it will be changing quite a bit when you drag them around.
So are you suggesting that here we should add some kind of information that you can also like use the drag and drop feature on the, what would we call that, the overview page?
Yeah, so because if somebody edits some weights here, then drags and drops drags them in the overview and then edits another one, so might get confusing that the one he or she the one they edited first, it's kind of already changed.
Yeah. Benji, you had a kind of more fundamental suggestion, so I'm wondering, would you maybe want to share, like, post us something in the chat I can copy in to this, and then we can maybe look at if we need to add on what Simo just suggested.
Okay.
Because I think I know what you were saying, but I don't. I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly.
Sure. That's the first half.
Okay. So are you suggesting put this before the first sentence?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So still this the second sentence.
But as Benji said, the second sentence does only kind of rephrase the first one.
Yeah, it explains what ascending numerical order means. Do we need to do that?
Nope.
The first sentence, it gives the important information that depth matters first, and then the weight matters within things at the same depth.
Look. That worked.
I think we don't need the second one because the user would it would be more useful for the user to know that negative values are allowed. So that's, I think, more important than kind of explaining the order, what numerical order means.
Yeah, and you know, this thing that, like, thing that I find weird about this weight field is you have absolutely no context as to what 9 means in relation to everything else. Like, in order to understand what 9 means right now, we see 9 is the value of this field. You'd have to go and inspect every other menu item at the same level to understand if I change 9 to -9, where that's going to appear. And I mean, that's slightly more fundamental than an issue than description text, but it's kind of like, as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, this field isn't very helpful on its own.
That's true. Most people are going to use the drag and drop interface. Which is the default, and they might, you know, click on the link as you did to show the row weights and then type things in individually. Which is my standard practice, but that's another issue. But go ahead, Ralph. I'm babbling.
One idea, definitely out of the scope for this issue, but I agree with Aaron. But especially for screen reader users, would it make sense, for example, to get a context to have, for example, if with a weight 9, you currently have, for example, 9 menu links above and 20 menu links underneath the link. And if you change it to play, for example, 7, it gets updated and you get a new reference values that way.
Mm-hmm. So to illustrate, most people probably don't pay attention, but you can hide or show the row weights. And here they are, it's a select list, interestingly.
Yeah, it's a different widget on the individual item.
Which I also find quite interesting, because here you don't get it. So it's to Simo's point, I think it was about negative values. It's clear on here that there's negative values, but it's not clear here that there's negative values necessarily, unless you were to like just without thinking click these arrows.
Yeah, if you click and hold the down arrow, you'll pretty soon get to something negative.
Which is I know this is like the browser or rendering this, but like here the negative values are up from the 9, whereas here they're down from the 9.
I would have also expected it to go. You have to click up to get to the negative value.
Yeah, actually, why does it go in this order? That is bizarre, actually, because oh no, this is the right direction. Okay, I'm clicking up and it's, oh, that's really throwing me off. I don't like this.
Also, I just checked that you're not allowed to type in more than -50 here.
Mhm.
But then when you have the select list, then it goes to something like -69 or something like that. So -60 something.
Oh,
Yeah, but
you're right.
try to edit that and type in -61.
Yeah.
All right,
No, leave it to 0 and try to click on the edit.
yeah.
And here, like -61 and save.
Yeah, the browser, the form validation is yelling at me. Okay, so I guess with this issue, because this issue is obviously specifically looking at description text, but we've identified the help text, but we've identified a number of potential or actual problems here. How should we proceed with this specific issue? What do we feel is the description text? Because there's been some other suggestions from Ralph and Simo around like things we could add to this description text. But another part of me feels like, why do we bother showing the weight field in the first place on this form? It almost seems like really like entirely useless in this context. It's far more useful in this context, right? So how do we think we should proceed? I also said this would be a quick issue, and it is Clearly not a quick issue, so sorry.
I would say that it is questionable that it's useful. The usefulness is very questionable.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm not sure that it's worth the effort of removing it, given that it's disruptive, and who knows, maybe somewhere out there, there's someone who's used to using this.
Yeah.
I would go with this shorter help text. I don't think we need that second sentence at all. I think it's good to mention the depth and the ascending numerical order, and that's enough.
Yeah. Menu links to the same depths are displayed in ascending numerical order. It's low resolution. I mean, is there enough without that second sentence? Is there enough context to say, okay, if I'm here, like, because at least with the second sentence, you have a sort of directional context, I guess. You think, okay, if I put like -50, I know it's going to be like at the top of the list, right? But without, do you have enough context without that second sentence? Is what I'm wondering. Ralph just suggested menu links at the same depth are displayed in ascending numerical order from negative to positive values. Let's copy that in and see. And let's do it on a different tab so we don't lose the other one. So, yeah, okay.
Can you fix the typo? Negative.
It's missing the E,
Oh.
isn't it?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is that bothering you?
And the period at the end, I forgot.
Right.
Aaron is officially the team typist.
Yay. I'll take it. That is certainly the shortest of the options we've looked at, and does, for me at least, it does convey the same information.
In fact, it adds something. Without mentioning negative and positive, people might think that you can't go lower than 0.
True. I would add I'm tempted to suggest we add a comma somewhere in there.
After the
saying
word
order. Yes, that's what I was thinking.
I've already made my opinion clear that the original 2 sentences was too long. I think this is better. Other people want to give opinions? Quick thumbs up, thumbs down, or longer opinion?
Yeah. Seymour, how do you what do you think? Because you were suggesting we add in some additional information, but do you think this conveys what you were thinking as well?
Yeah, I think this is good.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so with that in mind, I want to make sure, because this issue is looking at multiple places, which you know my feeling about issues that cross multiple subsystems, but there we go. I just want to make sure that we're comfortable that this works for taxonomy and book as well. So we would essentially, in fact, why don't we just do it to the issue summary while we're here? So menu links, so many terms, so that would be terms, I guess. And then book pages. That would be pages.
How come the terms earlier suggestion didn't include depth or hierarchy?
That's a good question. They all have, I believe, taxonomy, and I think book has a sense. They all have a sense of hierarchy, so potentially just an oversight.
Also, technically, it's not terms or links at the same depth. It's terms with the same parent.
Yep.
Because if we go to taxonomy,
I added some terms to the,
thank you, Benji.
you're welcome.
So, oh yeah, okay. I guess it's still like, I guess depth still, does it still apply? Because even in it's similar to menus, but like your, well, I guess it's like, yeah, parent item. So would this be terms with the same parent? Let's have a look at book as well. Is book installed? No, it's not.
Here, I can install it.
Too late. I think we have to create at least one book page.
We are running up against the hour. So I just brought up this point that same depth isn't really accurate. Do people think that's an important distinction to make?
Definitely in that regard.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I do
book
want
has
to
a
be
similar
respectful
idea.
of people's time, so I'm afraid that means I'm going to have to cut you off, Aaron. But of course, we can continue the discussion on the issue in Slack.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just double check. Do people think book also applies the same with the word parent rather than depth?
Yeah, people talk about the parent page.
Yeah, okay. Cool. I'll update. I'll post something on the issue and for this. So cool. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Be back next week.
Have a
Bye.
nice weekend.
Yeah, but